Welcome to Prodigy Sport Stations. P.S.A. podcast is an unconventional podcast that challenges the audience to think outside the box using real-life experiences, clever narratives, original quotes, and the creative use of satire in order to break the audience free from negative paradigms and push them towards their own personal growth. This is by no means a method to condemn or bash the audience, but instead encourage and showcase a different perspective that might not have been seen before. P.S.A. is designed to showcase to the listeners that the power of the mind is not a joke, and if a person can learn to control their mind and their thoughts, they will ultimately control their life. This podcast serves as a means of entertainment and educational purposes only, and not a replacement for therapy or any other type of professional help that the audience may desire. What's going on, everybody? We back again. I got another Zoom episode. I need to stop saying I got another Zoom episode because I know y'all can see me. Well, the audio can't, but either way, we here today. I told y'all it was gonna be just a little season, or not season, but like a little series of Zooms for a little minute because I got to get my guest on here. I hadn't had a guest since episode 2, and then of course, shout out to my cousin last week that pulled up on us for the Forex trading episode. All right, so today's episode is titled Tapping into Self-Confidence and Respect. The meme reads, Drake and Jhené Aiko was preaching when they said, I love me enough for the both of us. Inspiration comes from the song, obviously, Time by Drake and Jhené Aiko. And inspiration comes from my guest today. That's all he's about. So tell me, sir, what's your name and where you from?
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, my name is Kevin Nahai. I am a personal coach and a motivational speaker from Los Angeles, California. And I'm so grateful to be on the show today.
All right, we're glad to have you. So, motivational speaker, coach, break that down so for people who really get like the motivational speaker and coach for dummies, in case they may not know all the way what that is.
Yeah, of course. So, um, you know, there are a lot of different types of speakers and a lot of different types of coaches. Um, I am not a one-trick pony. I'm not a coach or a speaker who speaks about money and relationships and confidence and this and that. I believe that it's better to really become an expert in a few things, and that's what I've tried to do. And what I speak from is my personal experience, and I don't teach anything that I haven't gone through and overcome myself.
Okay.
So I really focus on 3 areas. One of them is dating and relationships. Another one is self-respect, self-confidence, like we're going to be discussing today. And another one is anxiety management. Sorry, that's my dog.
we got to keep the bloopers. I always got to keep them. All right. So how did you get this big following that you had? Because when I seen your page, I was like, okay, he got a good following. And then I seen you have an engaged audience. You know, some people, they got these big followings and still be only have like 10 likes. So how did you get an engaged audience? Like, what is it that you did? You do anything special? Or you was just yourself?
Well, first of all, no, I wish I could say that I was just myself because Instagram is so oversaturated.
Yeah.
And especially in this industry, now every single person has got 10 bajillion followers. And, so I'm definitely not killing the social media game. And I appreciate the compliment, but it doesn't really matter because social media, unless you're an influencer, doesn't translate to business or money or anything. So I just use it as a platform to get my message out there. But the way that I did it is I hired a business coach. I hired somebody who understands marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the best advice that he gave me that I was able to follow is be consistent with your messaging, be consistent with your posting, be yourself, be authentic. Don't overdo it with 10,000 hashtags. Don't go trying to buy a whole bunch of followers. Don't promote every single post. Don't just try to advertise yourself. It's a difficult thing because I have an important message. I have several important messages that I really want to get out there. And the way that Instagram works is that it only delivers your content to the same like 4, 5, 6 people. Those are the people who see it over and over again. And it's very difficult to break out of that.
Yeah.
But I do believe that the cream rises to the top. I think that if you stay at it long enough, and if you keep trying, and if you keep pushing what you have to say, even though people may not even though people may not agree with it, and if what you're saying is quality, then there will be an audience who will listen to it. But if you're people know the difference between something that is interesting and authentic and something that's the same as everybody else.
Right.
you know and my messages definitely aren't the same as everybody else. I Some of the things that I say, I guess, are considered controversial or just different, so
Mhm.
maybe that helped me as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely all about that. I mean, and not to intentionally be controversial, but again, the purpose of the show is get you to think outside the box. So that's my
Exactly.
main goal. So when you hear the phrase self-confidence, what comes to mind?
um the first thing that comes to mind is that most people have a false sense of it.
Mm,
um they Most people's idea of self-confidence is actually their ego, not true authentic self-confidence.
okay.
So the ego wants to be better than everybody else. The ego wants to be richer than everybody else, skinnier, sexier, wants to have nicer cars, wants to have more money. The ego is based on comparison,
Yeah.
right? Comparing myself to other people, comparing myself against my previous self, comparing where I'm at to where I want to be in the future, all of these comparisons.
Hmm.
And, you can tell yourself all day long, I'm so great, I'm so this, I'm so that. But to me, true, authentic self confidence, which takes a while to build, is not having to compare yourself to anybody else.
Hmm.
Meaning, where I am right now, I feel good about, and where I'm going in the future, I have a vision, right? So you accept responsibility for your past, you are content and making progress in your present,
Right.
and you have a vision for your future. And if you can do that, then you don't have to compare yourself to anybody or anything else. And
Hmm.
you're really dropping your ego. You know, I used to have the most fragile ego, and I used to have a very overinflated sense of self-confidence that was kind of just smoke and mirrors. I was kind of just putting on a facade, even though inside I was very sad and, had a very messed up internal life. Um, and now, thank God, after all the work that I've done, the way that I am is whatever anybody believes about me, I let them.
Yeah.
I don't go chasing after anybody trying to prove anything
Hmm.
about myself, because for the first time in my life, I am truly happy and content with who I am. And by the way, that's not because I wake up every day and I say, "Oh, Kevin, you're so great," and just like fill my head with hot air. It's because I'm actually doing things that build my self confidence.
Yeah.
So, what it all comes down to, Izzy, is self confidence is not something that you have, it's something that you do.
Mm,
Self respect is not something that you have, it's something that you do.
mm,
Self esteem, you don't magically wake up one day and have it flowing through your veins.
right.
You acquire it through your actions. Does that make sense?
No, it definitely, because a lot of times, especially in society, we see these people, with the money, the cars, the shoes, the jewelry, just everything, and they maybe look good on the outside, but then it's like on the inside, they take rejection easily. And it's like in your mind, you probably feel like I have all of this. So why shouldn't this person choose me? Or why are these people rejecting me when I got all these things going on? But in reality, I think we as just a society, a lot of us are suffer from, I feel like, the spirit of rejection, and I feel like that's kind of what has been, you know, pushed on us. And if we don't get this many likes, or if this person don't like my picture, or if this person don't tell me I look nice today, then it's kind of like, we take that and then we just be like, this is what it is. And I
Yeah,
think,
it's funny you say that. I saw a meme on the internet the other day that said Instagram ushered in this era where 22-year-olds want to kill themselves because they're not driving around a Lamborghini,
mhm,
right? And it's that comparison. It's like you see this 22-year-old influencer with a six pack and a bunch of hot girls around, and he probably like got that way from his dad's oil money or whatever,
Yeah.
and you look at that person and you compare them against yourself, and you think, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And then you get rejected by some girl you like, and then that makes you think even more, what's wrong with me? you know because we're basing our opinions of ourselves on everybody else and on
Right.
everything external,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the challenge is, like I said, self-esteem is not something you have, it's something you do.
Mhm.
You do have to build up your own life in
Mhm.
order to earn self-esteem. You
Right.
know, I am not one of the guys, I am not part of the self-esteem guru generation that says to everybody, you're exactly perfect the way you are.
Mhm.
If that's true, then nobody would ever make any progress. And the time in my life when I started to make progress was when I honestly assessed what was wrong with me. And I overcame the fear of telling myself, Kevin, you're not good enough right now. You're not where you want to be, and that's okay. But let me admit that to myself so then I can make changes.
Mhm.
If I just pretend that, oh, time will take care of it, or God will take care of it, or my mom will take care of it, or whatever, right? And I'm perfect the way that I am, then I'm never going to earn true self esteem, right? Because I'm just going to stay stuck in that position.
Right.
You follow me?
Yeah. And definitely. So, do you think that this generation has, like, a lot of people are in denial, basically? Like, they just maybe haven't accepted that, where I want to go with this, that they're I think maybe they create an illusion of what they want to be in their head. And then if they
I
don't,
think they're I think they're terrified to admit that they're not happy with their lives, or that they want more, or that they're not good enough the way they are right now. I
mm,
think that's a terrifying thing to admit. So yeah, sometimes there's denial, sometimes there's overcompensation,
mm,
sometimes there's trying to pump your ego falsely like a basketball, you
mhm,
know, filling it with air when you fill it so much and eventually it pops.
yeah,
So but I think it all stems from the fear of saying, damn, my life is not actually the way that I want it to be. That's a damn scary thing, bro. It's not easy to admit that, Izzy, but the second you do, it's so empowering, because that is the first step to building a better life for yourself. You just
right,
got to overcome that fear and be willing to assess honestly where you are, right? There's nothing wrong with you. Everybody and their grandmother has problems. You know what I'm saying?
no, for real,
Right? But you have to admit what your problems are. You got to take responsibility for them. And that way you can overcome them. You can work through them. You can grow and earn true self-esteem, because you get to look at yourself and say, look what I did. Like, look at what an amazing job I'm doing. Look at this weight that I'm losing. Look at these great relationships I'm having. Look at this money that I'm making. Look at how fulfilled I am. Look at how connected I am. My faith is growing. My spiritual connection is stronger, right? You start making progress in all of these areas. And when you see that progress, then your self esteem really authentically grows.
I agree. That's a lot. Like I said, y'all, look, we ain't even halfway through the episode yet, and his man is dropping gems, y'all. He dropping it already. Okay, so 2 words, and I'm gonna get a definition. So when you hear respect, what comes to mind?
Respect for yourself or respect for others?
Just whatever. It's the first thing I always do. It's just like the first thing to come to mind.
When I hear the word respect, the first thing that comes to mind is acceptance, meaning if you don't if you don't agree with somebody, you accept it anyway,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you respect it. You don't talk down to them, you don't disrespect them. You accept that people have differences, and you try to be you try to tolerate it and be as polite and kind as you can.
Okay.
When I think self-respect, the first thing that comes to mind is your actions, right? Because your
Mm,
actions indicate whether or not you respect yourself.
yeah. Okay. Okay. When you hear the last one, when you hear the word coach, real quick, what come to mind?
Somebody who believes in you more than you believe in yourself.
Okay. All right, so I went ahead to find all three of the words. So self-confidence said a feeling of trust in one's abilities, qualities, and judgment. This all comes from dictionary.com. It says self-respect. It said pride and confidence in oneself and feeling that is behaving with honor and dignity. And
Hmm.
then coach, some
Keyword behaving. You know
right.
how I said actions?
Uh-huh.
So there that definition is also saying the same thing. Behaving with honor and dignity.
Right, right. Okay, okay, yeah. Okay, I just peeped. And then it says, coach, it says someone who wants the best for his team, supports them, and encourages their development. Okay, now this comes from Urban Dictionary, y'all. So I'm just reading what it said. This one does, and I did it on purpose. So it says someone who wants the best for his team, supports them, and encourages development. Can sometimes be a bit of a cunt, but is still loved by the whole team, has a clear knowledge and understanding of what they got going on. So I look at that as somebody that care for you is going to tell you the truth. And this is my issue with the whole mental health thing sometimes, because I feel like with mental health, people think everything is puppies and rainbows. If you've ever been to a therapist or any kind of counselor, any type of coach, they're going to let you have it. And even if it isn't like them yelling at you, they're going to say something that's going to sting. So I don't get with this logic. Sometimes people have this ignorance that, mental health is always happy. And it's like, it's not, and it's gonna be encouraging, but in the same breath, it's not gonna be the encouraging that you would expect. Sometimes, if your parents is yelling at you about something, that's form of encouragement because they're telling you, okay, I have to yell at you this way or tell you like this because you're not listening. If I remember when I was like 4, and I remember my parents told me not to go on the side of the house where the windows were open because you're gonna hurt yourself. And I remember I went over there, walked over there, and it cut the side of my head. It was a big gash on my head. They told me don't go over, don't do that. And then of course they had to yell at me later about it, but it wasn't because they don't like me, it was out of love. So
Right.
it's kind of the same thing. I think people think that somebody disagreeing with them or telling them something, even though sometimes we do need to work on our approach at times, but in the same breath, I feel like we get caught up in, how it's delivered and not what they're saying. That's my little rant.
Right. Yeah, no, I think your rant is spot on. And by the way, there are a lot of therapists and coaches who will act like everything's puppies and rainbows. And, they will try to give you motivational this and that to motivate you or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's useful sometimes. But what I tell all of my clients is that sometimes I'm always going to say it with compassion, and I'm always going to try to tailor my approach so that you can hear it and take it in. But sometimes I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, and my clients are mad at me all the time. Like sometimes they will say, I don't like this, or I don't like that, or I don't feel like doing this, I don't feel like doing that. Sometimes they'll be pissed at me. Sometimes they'll be, hurt. Sometimes they'll cry in sessions or whatever. It's never because I'm being mean to them. It's because I'm forcing them to confront difficult things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But never, ever, ever have I been fired by a client because I pushed them too hard, or I was mean to them, or I made them see the truth, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
People appreciate that. It stings in the moment, but you know, the truth will set you free. First, it'll piss you off,
Yeah.
but it will set you free and it will help you. And as long as you can be humble enough and coachable enough to listen and to take it in, you got to understand that, if you're working with somebody who is trustworthy and who truly wants the best for you, yes, their approach should be gentle and they should communicate with you in a positive and loving way. But if
Right.
they're telling you something that's hard to hear, it is 100% in your best interest. It's 100% because they're trying to create a result. And, sometimes, excuse my language, you can't bullshit around, you know?
Mhm. No, I agree wholeheartedly. I grew up in a tough love household, sometimes a little too tough, but for the most part, I'm appreciative of it. All right, so just take us through a day of your personal like coaching, because you're the first coach I've had on this show. So as
Oh,
like you
cool.
have just take us through like how your day would be set up for anybody who maybe want to get a personal coach or anybody who wants to be one. Like how does that look?
Sure. So, what I do with my clients is I meet with them twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're my client. So I have a session with Izzy. on Mondays at 6 p.m. and a session with Izzy on Thursdays at 2 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I have those two clients. So throughout the entire day, I have clients. My clients who are here in LA, I see a lot of them in person. Some of them I see on Zoom because of COVID and whatever.
Yeah.
My clients who are in other parts of the US or international, I see them virtually, obviously.
Right.
So I'm just coaching clients all day long. I work out every day, 6 days a week. My rest day is Friday. So lifting weights and exercising is a huge part of my mental health and, my peace of mind. So that gets worked in there every day. I have a business coach that I work with. So I talk to him once a week. I
Mm-hmm.
also have a therapist that I see. So I talk to my therapist once a week. And then I also do a lot of speaking. So I'll teach a Zoom seminar to a business or a conference or a school or a nonprofit organization. Before COVID, I had a lot of in person speaking events. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get back to those pretty soon because
Yeah.
I miss the in person stuff. But yeah, that's basically it. And I also eat a lot. Uh, I'm always starving,
Same.
and I have a dog, so me
Yeah.
me and my dog are hanging out all the time. And then spend time with family, friends. I have a baby niece who I see all the time, so
Okay. You
I have
pretty
a
active guy.
pretty lucky guy, man. I have an unbelievable life. I'm so blessed.
Yeah, that's a good. That's good. You got a lot going on, but for me, I like having a lot going on because then it's like when I don't have a lot going on, I feel like I'm not doing nothing. I
Hmm.
don't overwork myself. That's I don't do. I don't do that
Right.
at all. I know how to stop. Like I know some people struggle with that, but not me. I will go to sleep quick. So where do you get the ideas for your social media posts? Is it like your clients or just your own personal experiences, that kind of thing?
It's my experiences and really what I believe is my personal truth.
Mm-hmm.
But what I believe is my personal truth, I tested on other people.
Mm,
Before I ever became a coach who had paying clients, I worked for 2 years for free. And I just said to people, let me coach you for free. Let me test out some different, models and some different ideas and some different theories. And, let me see if it works for you. So I
mm,
learned quickly what works and what doesn't.
yeah.
So it all comes from my experience. Some of it comes from books and from other coaches that I've learned from and things like that. Although I try to be pretty original, you know. Um, but I will tell you that, a lot of the things that I teach are my personal experience and they're controversial and, they don't always align with what a lot of other people say. However, a lot of what I teach is not rocket science. It's been
Okay.
around for ages. It's just that people don't think it works, or they want to like find a shortcut, or they think that there's some other, there's some like new revolutionary way to do it. But the truth is that if you look across different species and different cultures and different places in human history, if you do certain things, you're going to have a messed up life.
Yeah.
And if you do certain things, you're going to have a good life. You know, it's, it's not, it's simple, but it's not easy. Like it's simple to understand, that you have to make better choices. Actually making those choices is not always easy.
Right.
So that's really my job is to teach people what are the better choices to make and then hold their hand and walk them through that process.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty good. All right. So now with confidence and respect, do you feel that there is a difference between the two?
um yeah, I do. I think there's a subtle difference, but I think self-respect, my definition of it would be your feeling of how worthy you are,
Mm-hmm.
how deserving you are, how important and valuable you are in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think self-confidence is more a feeling of how good you are at something,
Yeah.
like your capability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your ability to do something or to perform at something. For example, you could have very low self-respect as a person, but be incredibly good at your job. Like you're a brilliant engineer and you know that you're a brilliant engineer. So you have high self confidence in engineering, but you have low self respect because you make poor decisions in your personal life and you don't think that you're worth very much. On the flip side, you could have a pretty good foundation of self respect
Hmm.
and know that you deserve things and know that you're worthy, but you have no idea what you want to do with your life. So then you don't have any self confidence because you haven't actually become good at anything.
Yeah.
You've kind of just been floundering. So I do think there's a subtle difference between them, but I think that they're very intimately connected.
Okay. All right. I like the little breakdown. Um, I posed the question, and we actually kind of already answered it because we was asking about. I asked why do people have low self esteem or low self confidence these days, and we kind of talked about it. We talked about people in social media, and we always trying to compare ourselves, and we talked about people worrying about the future and not living in the moment. I just got off of the phone with my homie, and she was talking about how she likes at this point in her life, she used to want to know the unknown and want to
Mm,
know stuff that she couldn't control. But now she feels like, you know what? No, I like knowing what I know because when you know more, you put your feelings in more stuff. So she liked it better of just being like, okay, I'd rather deal with this much right here than dealing with all of this over here and
mm,
only knowing about this, you
mm,
know. And the beauty of our brains is it holds a lot of information, and sometimes it can kind of bring up old stuff. And that's when another reason I feel that people have low self confidence is because of trauma and, like I mentioned earlier, rejection. So our brains then held on to this stuff, and that kind of thing. Do you? I'm gonna read from this website I went to, and has different signs of low self confidence. We're gonna read that and then go through it together, and then I'm gonna ask you some more questions. So the first one, it says, and you tell me what you think as the coach. It says
okay.
you feel compelled to check your phone when alone in social situations. The scenario that was given was two people are at a bar, a restaurant, shopping mall. One needs to go to the toilet. The other person quickly comes to the realization that they are now alone in a public setting. The first instinct is to go to their phone, checking for non existent text messages, scrolling through social media to alleviate boredom until the other person returns. Right? Wrong. It says, I guarantee you the reason most people do this, is because they feel that they are being judged by the public when they're out in a social situation by themselves. I can attest to that. I have been there and I'll be like, everybody looking at me, even though anybody think about you. But in your mind, you thinking somebody
Mhm.
worried about you. Um, what's your take on that?
I think sometimes
Yeah,
that is not the first thing I would say is a sign of low self confidence. You might just be extremely shy. You
yeah,
might just have social anxiety. You know, it's totally possible that you're in a bar and you're worried you're going to be judged and you have low self confidence and you don't, you're scared of what people think. So you look down at your phone to try to kind of hide. But
mhm,
like my sister, for example, she has very high self confidence, but she just doesn't like people.
mhm, yeah,
Like she doesn't really enjoy being in like those social settings. So she would
yeah.
probably be looking at her phone. So I think uh that is a good indicator sometimes, but that wouldn't be the primary indicator for
Yeah.
me.
It says this other one, it says you're unable to leave the house looking like crap. You always feel the need to be over the top and overdress everywhere you go. Again, sometimes, but I know people who just like being over the top with what they put on. Me, I'm not gonna lie. If I'm going somewhere quick, I'm gonna just throw on something because my mind said I ain't gonna see nobody no way. So I'm gonna just be like, and even if I do, I'll be like, dang, I ain't. I'm mad they saw me, but in the same time, I'm like, look, I just threw on something. I give you see my if y'all see my Instagram, I'll be fly. So I don't care if I'm country right now. I just threw on something. Probably went in my closet with my eyes closed and just grabbed it and hit it out. But that's just how it is, especially when I'm hungry. I don't think straight when I'm hungry. So it's like, look, I need to go
Yeah,
eat.
I get mad when I'm hungry. Yeah, again, that one, that's not the first thing that I would pick as a sign of low self confidence. I think if you get dressed to go out, it could be a sign of very high self confidence because you like to look nice. If you don't get dressed to go out, that could be a sign of high self confidence because you don't care what other people think. So with that one, I think it could go either way.
It says stressful situations have you reaching for substances or sex. It says how you cope with stress is a great measure of self-confidence. Those who face it head on and fight through the battle build confidence quickly. Those who use the distractions of the body, mind, or just avoiding conflict, pain, and failure due to fear.
Okay, that one is on the money.
Oh,
Were all
okay.
these written by the same person?
Yes, I got it from this website.
Okay,
I think it was somewhere on Psychology Today. I didn't for this one for
okay,
only this one. I forgot to put who did it because typically I always say, "Oh, this is
that's
from."
okay.
Yeah.
So that is what I would list as the first one. So for me, there are 5 definitive measures of your self-respect. Okay. One of them is what you do all day long. 2 is who you spend your time with, your friends. 3 is how you treat your body. Are you having a bunch of random meaningless sex? Are you doing drugs? Are you eating like shit? Are you smoking a bunch of weed? Are you drinking alcohol? Are you abusing your body? 4 is who you date, right? Are you dating people who are losers and they bring you down? You have poor relationships. And 5 is how you talk to yourself. Are you being mean to yourself in your head all day long? So this one is really, it's talking about coping with stress and how you cope with stress, and it cites sex, alcohol, and drugs.
Hmm.
If you are abusing sex, alcohol, or drugs, using any of those things as a crutch, then to me that is one of the biggest indicators of low self-esteem. You know, so that's what I would put as the most glaring red flag, not looking at your phone or how you dress.
Yeah, I think those was a little extra. That's why I was like, let me run this by. And this what happened last week because I had a forex trader on and who my
Hmm.
cousin, and we were going through some of the, I was trying to basically open the doors for people who to know more about forex. I don't do forex, but for people, just to get them kind of a chance. And he was just
Hmm.
telling me a lot of the stuff that's online and that you see is not true. So that's why I like to say, let's have a conversation about certain
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
See, if we tripping or not. And then the last one, it says you mind read. It says mind reading causes huge problems. You can spend a whole night lying awake, fretting over why your crush was so cold to you at work without realizing that. Well, first of all, you got the crush at work. You know that's probably why anyway. But it says without realizing that they were simply distracted by a family crisis and you didn't even notice. Or you can develop a raw hatred towards someone because you think they're condescending towards you when really they have a facial bone structure that makes them appear haughty and they're actually shy around you because you intimidate them.
Okay, yeah. So the mind reading thing is more to me, it's more of an indication of high anxiety than it is an indication of low self-esteem. But sometimes high anxiety and low self-esteem are very correlated.
Mhm.
It goes back to the comparison thing. If you're comparing yourself to other people, that is A, going to give you anxiety, and B, decrease your self-confidence. If you're trying to read other people's minds and, oh my God, what does this person think of me all day long? Right. I think that the root of that is anxiety, but I think that getting stuck in that cycle is going to decrease your self-confidence as well. So I give props for that one too. I would have just worded a little bit differently, but the
Yeah.
the the basic concept I agree with.
Okay, so go with two and two basically. Okay. All right. So now let's unpack this. Now, this is something else I want to shift gears. So, as always on my show, we like to give both sides of the fence just because I want to see the whole perspective. So we talk about low self-confidence. And I do you believe that I don't want to say you have too much self-confidence? Well, you can, but I like to refer to it as more so arrogant. And I say
Hmm.
yes, but do you believe a person can be too arrogant?
Of course.
Do with clients, have you ever had a client or have clients that are too hot-headed and too arrogant, like they too full of themselves, I guess?
Absolutely. But it's rare,
Hmm.
because if they're so arrogant and their head is so full of hot air, then they don't usually think that they need help.
Right.
They usually think I'm too good for this and whatever. But what happens more often is the scenario I was describing at the beginning of the episode, where they have a false sense of self-confidence. They
Hmm.
tell themselves that they're so great in this, that, and the other, and they put on that facade, but inside they're not very confident at all. That is what happens a lot.
Hmm.
But I've definitely had a couple of clients who, decided, I don't know why they decided to work with me, but yeah, they come in and it's like, whoa, we gotta check your arrogance for a second. You need to have some humility if you're going to make progress in this world. True confidence and humility go hand in hand,
Mm-hmm.
because true confidence is the ability to say, I'm not perfect, but I'm working on myself, and I'm okay to admit that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah. And
But
so
somebody
how do
who's like,
you deal?
so,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was saying, so how do you deal? Like I said, you definitely say, you need to relax, like, humble yourself. So like, what are maybe some strategies you do for those who come in like, I'm here and
Well, it never works to tell someone you need to check yourself, you need to humble yourself, because that
right.
just hurts.
Yeah.
So that's definitely not the way that I would say it.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing that I ask them is, okay, let's look at your behavior, let's look at your attitudes, let's look at the way you think of yourself. How is that working out for you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, right? So if it's not working out for you, then are you open to trying a different approach? And if you're not open to trying a different approach, then you're going to stay stuck where you are. So let's try this again. Are you open to trying a different approach? Okay. Now you're open to trying a different approach. Good. Now you're coachable. Now we can work. Let me show you. Let me lead by example. Let me teach you why you might want to think of things a little bit different. So I
Right.
try to sort of massage down their ego a little bit rather than cutting it in half with an axe, you
Okay.
know. But look, you know, I had one client that I had to fire because she just didn't everything that I tried to teach her, she had an answer for.
Mm.
And I don't know if you've had students like this, in your classroom, but it's like you're trying to help them, but they just clap back at you with everything. And, it's like if you go to the doctor's office and they tell you you have pneumonia,
Right.
and you're like, no, I don't. You have pneumonia. The doctor, the doctor's not going to be able to do anything for you. So, there was only one time where I had to tell my client, look, you're not, you're spending your money, but you're not getting any results because you're not coachable.
Right.
So it does require a high level of humility.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's just, again, it kind of goes to what we were saying earlier, like this generation is not always. Well, I think a lot of, so do you think arrogance, and let me just ask like this, just make sure I got it. You think arrogance is a false sense of self-confidence?
Um, well, I think there are two types of arrogance. I think there's the type that's the false sense,
Mm-hmm.
where you're filling your head with hot air and pretending that you're all that, even though you're not.
Yeah.
And then I think that there's like true arrogance, like narcissism,
Mm.
where you are really convinced that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And your sense of self is just so inflated. And you really think you're like the second coming of the Messiah. There are people there are people out there like that,
Oh
you
yeah, I
know.
know. Yeah, I know.
Um, and where they got that or how they convinced themselves of that, I don't know. But there are people who believe the earth is flat. There are people who believe the sky is green. Yeah, I don't know. So people can convince themselves of whatever.
You know what? They definitely can. Cause, cause I'll be like, you believe that? You think that? And then it'd be about themselves, and I'll be like, that ain't, and it was a
That's not what I
situation.
see. Yeah.
That's not what nobody see. And you'll be saying like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, and then we be like, nah,
Yeah.
I'll let you have it. I ain't gonna say nothing. But all right, so went to now this one I actually was able to cite Casey Infidon on lifehack.com, and these are signs that you are too confident. So again, we're gonna run through the list and you're gonna be like, I don't know if I agree with that one, or maybe
Okay.
okay, that's right. So it says one, you are constantly late. What you think about that?
Mm. Wow. Actually, well, I think that's incredibly rude. Um, I've never thought of it in terms of you think I've never thought of it in terms of overconfidence, but I guess I can see how that would be because you have a disregard for other people's time, and you
Hmm.
think that your time is more important.
Right.
So I will give an A on that one.
Some of these we can probably run through because some we kind of already talked about. This other one is interesting. It says you interrupt others a lot, which then goes with the next one. It says you go out your way to be right. So both of them will go hand
Mhm.
in hand. I know for a fact both of those are like, you got it. You don't need nothing.
Okay. So you interrupt others to be right is not a sign of overconfidence.
You don't
I'm
think
sorry,
so?
you go out of your way to be right is not a sign of overconfidence. It's a sign of insecurity.
Mm.
Because when you're truly confident, you don't need to be right.
Oh, okay.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
You don't care to prove a point. You say what you have to say, and if people appreciate it, great. And if they disagree with it, that's okay too. You're not losing sleep over it at night because you are confident in yourself and in your convictions. When you are constantly interrupting other people, and I used to have that problem when I was younger, and it was a really bad character trait that I definitely had to work on.
hmm,
Yeah, I think it's kind of like constantly being late. You think that you're more important than other people
yeah,
and that you have the right to just interrupt them.
yeah. Okay. All right, good stuff. All right, it says you think your status is more important than whatever contribution you make.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. You think just because I'm XYZ person, just because I have XYZ money or followers or fame or clothes or whatever, I don't need to bring anything to the table.
Okay. It says we kind of covered this. You really just kind of covered it. It says you shield your inferiority with a superiority complex. We just
Hmm.
kind of talked about
Absolutely.
that. It says you love being talked about. Don't I feel like
Yep.
it don't matter if it's good or bad. As long as people talking, you good.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a publicity whore for sure.
And the last one I'm gonna go over, which we kind of already know. It says people constantly tell you to give them an opportunity to prove their abilities. I like that one. That one's different.
Wait, say it again.
It says people constantly tell you to give them an opportunity to prove their abilities. So basically, it's saying that you constantly telling people. I think I said it wrong, but they're constantly telling people like, let me show you I can do this. Watch this. I can do it. It's kind of like a
Oh,
it's a friend I used to have growing up, and we was like, oh, you acting like a his name is not Brandon, but I'm gonna say Brandon. I'm like, oh, here come a Brandon, which is a person who always think they can do everything. Like, here come Brandon, he can do it
right,
all.
right, right, right,
You're the Brandon
right,
right now. Like, it's nothing you can't do. You say you can do that. Oh, well, I can do that too. I remember I was on a
right,
debate team at college, and this one dude was like, oh, you're on the debate team? That's good. Well, actually, I can debate too. I'm like, okay,
right,
all right.
right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you're trying to prove you're right. You're trying to prove you're better. You're trying to one up people. Yeah. I mean, I think that one, is to me is an inferiority complex
Hmm.
cloaked in superiority,
Yeah,
you know, because when you're truly confident, you don't have to prove anything to anybody.
yeah,
It's like, oh, it's amazing. You do debate too. I love to debate. I actually did it in college. Not like, oh, you debate? Well, I debate as well. It's not like a challenge. It's like they're complimenting you and they're trying to relate to you.
yeah. And it's like you trying to say, well, yeah, I can give you some tips. I'm just like, and then of course, most people hear, well, that's one experience, but if you know the person, they did it in everything, so it's not like they just did that one time. Okay, so we talked about arrogance, we talked about low self-confidence and respecting yourself and all this good stuff. And again, because I go with the stats, I got 5 strategies to build unshakable confidence by Carol Castrillion. So I'm gonna name them, you're gonna be like, that one's a good one, or I can agree, disagree, which I like. I love when this happens, when people come on and I have stuff like, that ain't right, because
Okay.
that it keeps the conversation going, where you might say it's not right, but then another coach that might watch this might be like, I don't know, I think he tripping. But the first one, it says to build unshakable confidence, it says to conquer your inner critic. And it gave some tips. It says try to identify what your critical voice is telling you, acknowledge that this thought process is separate from your real point of view. It says write these thoughts down in second person as you statements. This is, for example, I can't get anything right, I'll never be successful. Instead, say you can't get anything right. It says you can get anything right, you'll be successful. This will help you see ideas from an outside point of view and not just as true statements. So I think that
Good.
one's pretty good. And then just responding to your inner critic. I think that one is good, because when we have these voices speaking in our heads, we just kind of like, yeah, you're right. You like, no, I'm not agreeing with that. You know, I come out of agreement with that. No, I'm not whack. I'm not stupid. I'm this, or you
Totally
know,
agree with that one.
yeah, somebody say you ugly. Oh, I'm not ugly. They just think I'm ugly. And that's their
Right.
opinion. That's they can have that. And
Exactly.
I think that's pretty good. It says to build up your the confidence. It says reflect on your accomplishments. I think that's pretty good. Sometimes I don't give myself enough credit. And I think
Mhm.
that's this generation. We don't acknowledge what we did. This one was interesting. It says maintain good posture, which is funny because I have terrible posture. But it says maintain good posture. I mean, I guess in the reason for it was saying that when you stand up high and it kind of like I think kind of probably triggers something, I think, in like your brain and in the nervous system where it's kind of like, I'm standing up high and mighty, maybe.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it when you change your body posture, it does give you a, more confidence, and it also gives you the outward appearance of being more confident. But
Mhm.
if your life is in shambles and you're just sitting up straight all the time, it's not going to fix your problems. So that's a good one for later.
Yeah. The last two it says develop an equality mentality, which basically, nobody's better than nobody. We all can do things on this level, kind of like I'm not better than you at this, that kind of thing. I think that's a good one. And then the other one, it says try things that make you uncomfortable. And I'm a firm believer of that. I just made a post about that on Instagram the other day. We got to get out the comfort zone to get something you ain't never had. You got to do something you've never done, and I'm a firm believer in that always. So, as always, I have a segment that's my tips and scenarios for my college students. So, I always let my guests answer this. So, what would be your tip and scenario or tips and scenarios for anybody that's in college right now who maybe is struggling with the low self confidence, the low self respect, you know, anything like that? What would be you know, your free piece of knowledge for them?
It would be those 5 categories I talked about earlier: how you spend your time, who you spend your time with, how you treat your body, who you date, and how you speak to yourself. So, in a nutshell, I mean, I'm going to have to sum this up really quickly, although I've given an hour talk on this before, but we only have a few minutes here. So, in a nutshell, how you spend your time. If you're sitting around skipping class, smoking pot all day, of course, you're not going to be confident. Spend your time doing fulfilling things, study, learn, get a job, do things that make you a better, more evolved person.
Mhm.
2, who you spend your time with. If all of your friends are losers, you're going to become a loser. Pretty straightforward. Choose better friends. If you don't have any better friends, then that's okay. Be a loner for a little while until you find one good friend who builds you up. That'll turn into another and another and another. 3, how you treat your body. Stop having sex with random people. Stop smoking pot. Stop drinking all of this alcohol, getting drunk and acting like a fool. It doesn't matter that you're only 20 or 21 or whatever. You know, you're building habits right now. I stopped drinking when I was 19. I haven't had a sip of alcohol in almost 10 years.
Oh wow.
That was a habit that I built. I started exercising when I was 16. I exercise every day. That was a habit that I built. So what we do when we're young, if we make a conscious effort to treat our bodies with more respect, that becomes a habit that we keep up later in life. It's a
Mhm.
lot harder to build those habits when you're like 30 or 35, you
Right.
know? Number 4, who you date. Again, stop having random sex. It doesn't make you cool. It's not helping you emotionally. If you want to have a good sex life, have a good sex life with somebody that you have an emotional connection with, and date people who are at your level, improve your level, and then date people who are at a higher level,
Mhm.
right? So basically, become a better person and then find somebody who is on your level and date them. Don't just date any Joe Schmo or any, random girl or whatever because they're available. That's not making you any better.
Yeah.
And number 5 is how you talk to yourself. If you're sitting there all day long saying, I'm so whack, I'm so stupid, I'm fat, I'm this, I'm that, or whatever, you got to silence that inner voice and you got to start feeding yourself some more positive messages.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. And I tell you, anybody who may be struggling with that, just find. I mean, it's something you like about yourself. It's something you can do. Highlight
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Highlight that. All right. So we're going until one of my favorite segments, game time. All right, in
Alrighty.
the game time, we're gonna do, it's always like kind of like a test based on the episode. So I have a few different scenarios, and you're gonna tell me whether or not the person is confident or the person is arrogant. Okay.
Okay. I like it.
So I'm gonna just do a few of them. So it says, I can do bad all by myself. Confidence or arrogance?
I can do bad all by myself.
Uh-huh.
I don't get it.
So basically saying like I don't need anybody. It's the simple term for one of those ones like I can do better by myself. I don't need anybody. I can mess up on my own, kind of like that.
Oh,
All I need is me.
oh. I mean, it's stupidity, but I guess I would say arrogance.
Okay. Um, I don't need approval from others. I approve myself.
Confidence.
I should be feared by all.
Arrogance.
I am very talented, but I thank Jesus for being where I am today.
Confidence.
Okay. So I'll just add a few of them. I didn't have too many. All right. So in the remarks, low self-confidence isn't a life sentence. Self-confidence can be heard, practiced, and mastered just like any other skill. Once you mastered, everything in your life will change for the better. 2 Corinthians 12 and 9. And my question, a challenge. I want my audience, participate in the giveaways. So tell me 3 things that make you feel confident about yourself. And I'm forcing you to realize something beautiful about yourself. All right. So I want to thank my boy Kevin for pulling up on me. Hopefully you had a good time.
Had an amazing time. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you and everything you do. Keep doing it. All right.
I appreciate
PSA.
you as well. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you for having me on the show.
All right. Thank you. PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are and make your mind up. Don't let it make you.